That gate comes down today, or I'm bringing bolt cutters and doing it myself. The woman in the pale pink blazer didn't flinch. She stood on the other side of the steel barrier, the barrier that hadn't existed 48 hours ago, with a clipboard pressed against her chest and a smile that could freeze water. Mr. Harrison, threatening destruction of community property is a violation of Riverside Springs HOA Bylaw 18.4. She held up her phone, camera pointed at my face. You're also trespassing. I suggest you leave before I call the sheriff. I stared at her through chain link and steel bars blocking the only road to my farm. Behind me, my daughter Maya stood with arms crossed, jaw tight. My buddy Derek leaned against his truck, shaking his head. The gate gleamed in morning sun, industrial-grade posts sunk in concrete, digital keypad, security camera, even a sign, Riverside Access Management LLC, authorized vehicles only, $150 month. 3 months of work, $15,000, every stone laid with my own hands. And now this woman, who'd never stepped foot on a farm, who lived in a house with manicured lawns and thought dirt was something you hired people to remove, thought she could lock me out with steel and paperwork. Mrs. Chen, I said, keeping my voice level, this road is on my property. You have no legal right. Actually, she interrupted, that smile never wavering. According to our updated community covenant, any access route intersecting Riverside Springs requires HOA approval and maintenance fees. You failed to secure approval. This gate stays until you comply. My hands clenched. Not from anger, though God knows there was plenty, but from something older. Something that tasted like the dirt my father used to bring home on his boots. The same dirt my grandfather worked until his hands bled. The dirt that 3 generations of Harrisons had stood on and said, "This is ours. We earned this." And now a woman with a clipboard was telling me I needed permission to reach it. 72 hours, I said quietly. After that, I'm calling my lawyer, the county, and anyone else who'll listen. Victoria Chen's smile cracked, just slightly. The HOA has very deep pockets, Mr. Harrison. Do you? She turned and walked away, heels clicking like a countdown timer. Maya came up beside me. Dad, what are we going to do? I didn't answer. I just stood there remembering the last time someone asked me that question. 5 years ago. Hospital room. My wife Sarah holding my hand, her grip already weak, her voice already fading. Cancer, stage 4, 6 weeks from diagnosis to the day she stopped breathing. Promise me something, she'd whispered. Don't let them take the farm. Don't let Maya grow up thinking you can't fight back. I'd promised. And then I'd left my corporate engineering job, moved back to the land my father left me, and spent 5 years learning how to be a farmer because that's what you do when you make a promise to someone dying. The farm was all I had left of Sarah's faith in me. And I'd be damned if I'd let Victoria Chen take it. What we're going to do, I finally said, is fight the right way, the legal way, the way that ends with her in handcuffs and that gate in a scrapyard. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. Not just of the gate of everything, the fresh concrete, the property line markers, the survey stakes I'd placed 3 months ago showing where my land ended and the county easement began, because Victoria Chen had just made the biggest mistake of her tenure as HOA president. She declared war on someone who knew how to document everything. 3 months earlier, I'd been sitting at my kitchen table at 2 a.m., staring at a pile of unpaid invoices that made my stomach turn. The farm was bleeding money. Not because the crops were bad, we'd had a decent harvest, but because I couldn't get them to market on time. The only road to my property ran through Riverside Springs, a suburban development that had sprouted up 5 years ago like a tumor on the edge of farm country. For years, I'd driven through without issue. Then Victoria Chen became HOA president. Within 2 months, she'd banned agricultural vehicles from using community roads between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., which meant I couldn't haul equipment, deliver produce, or transport supplies during the only hours that mattered. When I'd tried to negotiate, she'd given me that same smile. Community standards must be maintained, Mr. Harrison. No exceptions. So I'd started making runs at dawn and midnight, fitting a full day's work into the few hours the HOA allowed me to exist, but farms don't run on HOA schedules. Crops don't wait. Markets don't wait. I was losing contracts, missing deliveries, watching 5 years of work circle the drain because someone with a clipboard decided my livelihood was less important than suburban quiet. That night, staring at those invoices, I heard Sarah's voice in my head. Don't let them take the farm. That's when I remembered the old county road. Behind my back 40 acres, there was a strip of abandoned right-of-way, an old service road from the 1,960 seconds that the county had stopped maintaining decades ago. Half ran across my property. The other half was public easement. The road was buried under 20 years of brush and thorns, but it was there. And if I could clear it, I'd have a direct route to the highway that bypassed Riverside Springs entirely. I called Maya that night. Dad, it's 2 a.m. I need your help building a road. Silence. Then, when do we start? That's my daughter. Sarah's stubbornness wrapped in civil engineering training. We started that weekend. Me, Maya, Derek, with his ancient bulldozer. 3 of us standing at the edge of that overgrown right-of-way on a Saturday morning, looking at 20 years of nature, reclaiming land. Derek spit into the dirt. This is going to suck. Yep. When do you need it done? Yesterday, he grinned. Then let's get moving. The first weekend, we barely made 20 feet of progress. The brush was so thick, Derek's cutter kept jamming. Thorns ripped through heavy gloves. Saplings had root systems like concrete. By Sunday evening, we were filthy, bleeding, exhausted, and had cleared maybe 40 square feet of a road that needed to be half a mile long. At this rate, Derek said, wiping his forehead, we'll finish sometime around 2027. Maya was studying the survey map, calculator in hand. We need to work smarter. Dad, what if we fire cleared some sections? Controlled burns to take out the undergrowth, then focus cutting on the trees. County allows agricultural burns in summer? With permits, which I can file Monday. Derek grinned. Kid, you're scary smart. Where were you when I was failing math? Not born yet, Maya shot back. We got the permits. Spent the next 3 weekends doing controlled burns. Careful, methodical, watching the fire line like hawks. The acrid smoke hung over the property for days. Neighbors complained. The fire department came out twice to verify we were legal. But it worked. The undergrowth burned away, leaving blackened earth and the skeleton trees we could actually cut. Still, the work was brutal. July in the farm country means heat that doesn't quit. 100-degree days. Humidity so thick you could drink the air. Maya would work survey lines in the morning, then spend afternoons hauling water and checking our progress against topographic maps. Derek ran the bulldozer, grading surface as we cleared. The old case dozer he'd bought at auction was temperamental, broke down twice, forcing us to lose whole weekends to repairs. He'd curse at it in Spanish and English, sometimes making up entirely new languages just to properly express his frustration. I did the hauling. Gravel from the quarry, 18 miles round trip, truck groaning under the weight, 7 tons per load, 43 loads total. Each time I'd drive past Riverside Springs and feel Victoria's invisible eyes watching, judging, planning. One Saturday in August, I was spreading gravel when Maya called me over to where she'd been surveying drainage angles. Dad, we have a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? She pointed at the ground. This section here? It's lower than I thought. When the spring rains come, water's going to pool here and wash out the whole road. Can we grade it higher? Not without pulling up everything we've already laid. We'd need to dig deeper, put in a culvert system, re-pour the base layer. I looked at the section in question. 3 weeks of work, hundreds of dollars in gravel, all of it needing to be torn up and redone. How long to fix it? Maya did mental math. 2 weekends, maybe 3. Derek had walked over, catching the tail end of the conversation. Or we risk it, hope the drainage holds. I thought about that, about cutting corners, about Sarah. who used to say the only thing worse than doing hard work was doing it twice because you did it wrong the first time. We do it right, I said, even if it takes longer. Maya smiled. Not big, just a small curve at the corner of her mouth. That's what Mom would say. I know. So we tore it up, dug deeper. Derek found used culvert pipe from a construction site, demolition industrial steel, still good. We installed 3 sections, buried them properly, rebuilt the base layer. It took 4 weekends, not 3. Cost an extra $2,000 I didn't really have. But when we finished, Maya checked her measurements and nodded. It'll hold, even in spring floods. Good enough? Better than good enough. Professional. There were other problems. Equipment breakdowns. A week lost when Derek threw out his back and couldn't operate heavy machinery. Another week when I caught some summer flu and couldn't get out of bed. Then there was the day Victoria drove past. We were working on a Saturday, mid-September, when I heard the car slow down on the county road. Looked up to see a silver Mercedes idling, driver's window down, Victoria staring at our work. She didn't say anything, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge us. Just sat there for maybe 90 seconds, her expression unreadable behind designer sunglasses. Then she drove away. That felt ominous, Derek muttered. She's doing reconnaissance, Maya said, figuring out how to stop us. Let her look, I replied, more confidently than I felt. Everything we're doing is legal, but that night I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about that car, that expressionless stare, the way predators watch prey before striking. I was right to worry. The next Monday, I got a letter from Riverside Springs HOA legal department. Formal, typed on expensive letterhead, signed by 3 attorneys I'd never heard of. Notice of potential covenant violation. Construction activity on adjacent properties may constitute encroachment on HOA-managed easements, pending review of property boundaries and county records. Cease construction pending resolution. It wasn't an order, just a threat dressed in legalese. They couldn't actually make me stop. The work was on my property and county land. But the message was clear. We're watching, and we're looking for any excuse to shut you down. I showed the letter to Grace when I called her that evening. Ignore it, she said immediately. They're fishing, hoping you'll get scared and stop voluntarily. What if they find something? Some technicality? Thomas, you have permits. You have surveys done by a licensed engineer. You have county approval. They'd need to prove your documentation is fraudulent, which they can't because it's not. So I just keep building? You keep building, and you document everything. Every day, date-stamped photos showing your progress. If they try to claim you encroached or violated something, you'll have proof you didn't. So that's what we did. Built during the day, documented at night. Maya created a project folder with hundreds of photos, survey notes, permit copies, county correspondence, everything organized with the precision of someone who'd learned that details matter. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, the road took shape. By late October, we had a functioning gravel road running from my back pasture to the county highway. Not perfect, not paved, but solid. Real, legal. The day we finished, really finished, the last load of gravel spread, the final culvert cap installed, the 3 of us stood there in golden afternoon light, looking at what we'd built. Derek opened 3 beers. We toasted without words, because speech would have cheapened it. Maya had her head on my shoulder, and I felt her shoulders shake slightly. She was crying. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" "Nothing's wrong," she said, voice thick. I'm proud, Dad. Proud of you. Proud of us. Proud that we didn't quit." I pulled her close. "Your mother would be proud too. I know. I feel like she's been here the whole time, you know? Like she's been watching. Maybe she has," I said quietly. That evening, I drove the truck down the new road for the first time slowly, deliberately, feeling every slight bump and grade change. Windows down, engine quiet, just the crunch of gravel under tires. When I reached the county highway, I sat there for a long moment with my hands on the wheel, breathing. No HOA cameras, no speed bumps, no restrictions. Just open road connecting my land to the world. Freedom has a sound. It sounds like gravel crunching under tires at the pace you choose, not the pace someone else allows. I came home 2 hours earlier than I would have going through Riverside Springs. 2 hours. Time I could spend actually working instead of navigating someone else's rules. Maya and Derek were sitting on the hillside when I got back, watching the last light fade from the fields. I grabbed a beer and joined them. You know they're going to retaliate, Maya said quietly. Let them, I replied. The hard part's over. The road's built. It's legal. What can they really do? Even as I said it, part of me knew I was wrong, because people like Victoria don't accept defeat. They escalate. And 2 days later, she proved it. Mom would be proud, she said quietly. My throat tightened. Yeah, she would. You think she knew that it would come to this? Your mother knew everything that mattered. She knew we'd fight. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then, Dad, they're going to notice this road. And when they do, Victoria's not going to just let it go. Let them notice. The road's legal. I've got surveys, permits, county approval. She can't touch it. I was wrong. Because 2 days after we finished, I drove out to make my first supply run. And there it was. That gate. Blocking everything. The first call I made was to the county land office. Mr. Harrison. The clerk said, if you have documentation proving the right-of-way, the HOA can't restrict access. That's county jurisdiction. Can you send someone to verify? We'll have an inspector out within 2 weeks. 2 weeks? I've got deliveries scheduled, equipment that needs moving. I need access now. I understand, sir, but we're understaffed. 2 weeks is the best. I hung up before she could finish. Derek was watching me. So, what's the plan? We document everything. Then we get a lawyer who specializes in making HOAs regret their life choices. I called Grace Morrison, land use attorney, silver hair, eyes that could dissect bad contracts in 30 seconds. We'd worked together years ago on an engineering project. Thomas Harrison, she answered. What trouble are you in? HOA trouble, she laughed, but it wasn't happy. Tell me everything. I did. The road, the work, the documentation, the gate, Victoria's threats. When I finished, Grace was silent. Then, do you have proof the right-of-way is county property? Original survey from 1962, county clerk confirmed it when I applied for permits, and the HOA is claiming authority? They put up a gate with a fee structure. Thomas, that's not overreach. That's potentially criminal extortion. Her voice got sharp. Send me everything, surveys, permits, photos. I'm filing emergency injunction Monday morning. How long will that take? If the judge sees what I think he will? Days. But Thomas, she paused. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. HOAs don't back down easy. Let it get ugly. Good, because you're about to become very unpopular. She wasn't kidding. The smear campaign started within 48 hours. Someone created a Facebook group, Concerned Riverside Springs Residents. Within a day, 200 members. Posts about the dangerous farmer who was destroying community safety. They photoshopped my face onto threatening images. Shared my farm address with captions like, "This is where the troublemaker lives." Started a petition to designate my farm a nuisance property. Maya showed me the posts, face tight with anger. Dad, they're lying about everything. Saying, you threatened Victoria, that you're trying to drive down property values. I felt my jaw clench. Truth wins in court, not on Facebook, but it was hard. The feed store owner asked if maybe I should work things out with the HOA. Neighbors who should have understood started giving advice about not making trouble. Just pay the fee, one old farmer told me. It's not worth the fight. It's not about the fee, I said. It's about Victoria Chen thinking she can extort people who don't even live in her development. He shrugged. Pick your battles. But this wasn't about picking battles. This was about whether I was going to honor a promise made to a dying woman, or let someone with a clipboard decide my life wasn't worth protecting. Then, things escalated. I came out one morning to find construction debris blocking my road entrance. Broken concrete, twisted rebar, piles across the only way in. 6 hours with the tractor to clear it. Next night, someone cut my fence. Cattle on the highway. Half the night rounding them up, praying none got hit. Morning after that, graffiti on my barn. Leave! Maya was scared. Derek was furious, and I was starting to understand that Victoria wasn't defending HOA rules. She was sending a message, fight me, and I'll destroy you. But she'd pushed too far. Because now I had evidence of harassment, vandalism, criminal intimidation. When Grace filed that injunction, we weren't just asking for the gate to come down. We were building a case that would expose everything Victoria had done. Then came the moment I nearly broke. It happened on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after the gate went up. I was in the barn trying to repair a tractor that had thrown a belt when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Harrison? This is County Agricultural Services. We've received a complaint about unsanitary conditions on your property. We need to schedule an immediate inspection. My blood went cold. What complaint? Anonymous report citing livestock health violations, improper waste management, and potential groundwater contamination. That's a lie. My farm passed inspection 6 months ago. Nevertheless, we're required to investigate. If we find violations, we may need to suspend your agricultural permits pending remediation. I sat down hard on a hay bale. Without those permits, I couldn't sell crops, couldn't operate. The farm would be functionally dead. This was Victoria's nuclear option. If she couldn't block my road, she'd kill my farm another way. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, not with fear, with rage so pure it felt like something breaking inside my chest. I walked out of the barn. Maya was by the fence, checking irrigation lines. "Dad? What's wrong?" I told her. Watched her face go from confusion to fury. "She's trying to destroy us," Maya said, voice shaking. "Not just block the road. Destroy everything." "I know. So what do we do?" I looked at my daughter, this 23-year-old who'd spent weekends building a road instead of living her life, who'd endured online harassment and threats, who'd stood by me through everything, and I felt something crack. "I'm going to cut that gate down," I said. "Tonight. Bolt cutters. Done." Maya grabbed my arm. "Dad, no. That's exactly what she wants. You do that, you become the dangerous farmer. You prove every lie she's told." "I don't care anymore, Maya. I'm tired. I'm done playing by rules that only apply to me." "But Mom, your mother is dead." The words came out harsh, louder than I meant. She's been dead 5 years, and I've been holding on to her promise like it's the only thing keeping me human. But maybe she was wrong. Maybe some fights you can't win the right way. Silence. Maya's eyes glistened. Then she said, voice steady, "Mom wasn't wrong. You are. Because the second you pick up those bolt cutters, you're not fighting for the farm anymore. You're fighting like someone who's already lost." The words hit like a slap. I sat down on the porch steps, head in my hands. Maya sat beside me. "I'm scared, Dad. I'm scared she's going to win. That everything we built doesn't matter. That being right doesn't matter if the other side has more money and fewer morals." "Me too," I admitted. "I'm terrified. So what do we do?" I thought about Sarah. Not the dying version in that hospital bed, but the woman I'd married, fierce, stubborn, unwilling to compromise when something mattered. "We trust Grace," I finally said. "We document the harassment. We let the law work. And we remember that every time Victoria escalates, she's creating evidence we can use against her." Maya nodded. Then, quietly, "Dad, I'm glad you didn't cut the gate." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about how close I'd come to throwing away everything we'd fought for, how Victoria had nearly won by pushing me past my breaking point. But she hadn't, because Maya had pulled me back. Just like Sarah would have. The inspection happened 3 days later. County officials spent 4 hours going through my farm, When he left, he said, "Mr. Harrison, whoever filed that complaint either lied or doesn't know the first thing about agriculture. Your operation is cleaner than most in this county. Will you put that in writing?" "Already did, and I flagged the complaint as potentially malicious. If we get another false report about this property, we'll investigate who's filing them." One more piece of evidence. One more nail in Victoria's coffin. The hearing was set for a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks later. Gray skies, cold wind, the kind of weather that makes everything heavier. Grace met me on the courthouse steps, carrying a briefcase that looked older than both of us. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be." "Good, because Victoria's going to have expensive lawyers. They'll try to make you look unreasonable, dangerous, unwilling to compromise. Don't take the bait." Inside, the courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, that government building smell. Victoria sat across the aisle with 3 attorneys in matching suits. She wore navy today, no pink, and an expression of calm confidence. The judge entered. Older woman, gray hair, reading glasses. Looked tired of this before it even started. "Motion for emergency injunction," she began. "Mr. Harrison seeks removal of a gate allegedly blocking access to his agricultural property. Riverside Springs HOA contests his right to use the road." "Miss Morrison, proceed." Grace stood. No theatrics, just facts. "Your Honor, the road runs across my client's private property and county right-of-way documented since 1962. I have the original survey and current county clerk confirmation." She handed documents to the clerk. "My client spent 3 months and $15,000 clearing this legal road with proper permits. The HOA has no jurisdiction over county property. Yet they installed a gate, imposed fees, and are preventing Mr. Harrison from accessing his farm." Victoria's lead attorney stood. Perfect hair, car salesman smile. "Your Honor, the HOA installed safety barriers to protect residents from increased traffic." "Increased traffic from one farm truck?" Grace interrupted. "Heavy agricultural vehicles pose risks." "Your Honor," Grace's voice got sharp, "this isn't about safety. The HOA president has systematically harassed my client because his property borders their development. When he found a legal alternative route, she retaliated." The judge looked up. "Evidence?" Grace pulled out documents. Documentation of the previous vehicle ban during business hours. Text messages between Mrs. Chen and board members discussing ways to pressure Mr. Harrison. Photos of vandalism on his property that began after road construction. And this, she placed another document down carefully. A false agricultural complaint filed anonymously 3 weeks ago, traced to an IP address registered to Mrs. Chen's home. The courtroom went quiet. Victoria's composure cracked. One attorney whispered urgently in her ear. The judge examined documents in silence. Finally, "Mrs. Chen, did you personally authorize this gate installation?" Victoria stood, smooth and confident. "Your Honor, the HOA board voted to install safety barriers." "That's not what I asked. Did you personally authorize this specific gate on this specific road?" Pause. Tiny hesitation. "The board granted me discretion. Answer the question." Victoria's jaw tightened. "No, Your Honor. The board was not informed of this specific installation." "So you, acting alone, blocked access to Mr. Previous Harrison's property and attempted to charge fees for using a county road. The fees are for maintenance. Mrs. Chen, you don't have authority over county property." The judge's voice was sharp now. "You don't have authority to restrict access to private land. And you certainly don't have authority to impose fees on roads you don't own." She turned to Grace. "I'm granting the injunction. Gate removed within 48 hours at HOA expense. Mr. Harrison is awarded court costs and damages for lost income. We're also opening an investigation into potential extortion charges." The gavel came down. Victoria stood abruptly, chair scraping loud. She gathered papers with shaking hands, lawyers already whispering urgent advice. As she walked past our table, she stopped. "Just for a second. This isn't over," she said. Voice only for me. "Yeah," I replied quietly. "It is. But I was wrong about that too." The gate came down 2 days later. I got the call from Grace at 9:15 a.m. on Thursday. "County crew is heading out there now. Thought you might want to be present." On my way. Maya was already in the truck when I came out of the house. "Not missing this," she said. Derek pulled up in his pickup. Me neither. We drove to the gate in convoy, 3 vehicles rolling down my new road, the road that was finally, legally, undeniably mine. The county crew was already there when we arrived. 2 guys in orange vests, a flatbed truck, cutting torches, hissing blue flame. They worked with practiced efficiency. No drama, no ceremony. Just professionals doing a job. The first cut sent sparks showering across the pavement. The sound of metal surrendering, that high-pitched shriek of steel being severed, felt like something breaking open in my chest. Within 20 minutes, the gate posts were down. The digital keypad, the camera, the signage, all of it loaded onto the flatbed like scrap. Which is what it was. Expensive scrap that Victoria Chen had paid for with money that wasn't hers. The older of the 2 workers, a man with gray stubble and calloused hands, walked over wiping his forehead. "That's it," he said simply. "Road's clear." "Thank you," I managed. He nodded. "For what it's worth, my brother's a farmer down in Polk County. Had similar trouble with the development HOA a few years back. Didn't have the resources to fight it. Lost his property access. Had to sell the farm." His eyes met mine. "What you did here, fighting back, documenting everything, making them play by the rules that matters, not just for you." Then he climbed back in the truck and drove away, taking the gate with him. For a long moment, the 3 of us just stood there looking at empty road. No barrier, no restriction, just open pavement leading to my farm. Maya broke the silence. "I need to take a picture." "Why?" "Because someday, when I have kids, I want to show them what their grandfather built. And I want to explain that freedom isn't something you're given. It's something you defend." She pulled out her phone and took photos from multiple angles. Not just of the road, but of Derek and me standing there, of the property line markers, of the gravel surface we'd laid with our own hands. "Derek," she said, "get in the shot." "I didn't do anything," he protested. "You did everything," I corrected. "You showed up. You worked. You stood with us when it would have been easier to stay out of it." He shrugged, embarrassed, but stepped into frame. Maya took the photo. Then she sent it to me and Derek with a simple caption: "The gate is gone. The road is ours. The 9th of November, 2025. That afternoon, my phone started ringing. First, the local paper wanting an interview, then a farming advocacy group, then a regional news station. Word was spreading fast. Farmer beats HOA, gate comes down, potential criminal charges pending. I declined most interviews, told them to talk to Grace, who knew how to handle media without saying something that could be used against us later. But I did agree to one interview. Small local radio station, family owned, the kind of place that actually cared about rural communities. The host, a woman named Sarah Pierce, asked thoughtful questions that weren't designed to create drama. "Mr. Harrison, what would you say to other property owners facing similar situations with HOAs?" I thought about that, about the nights I couldn't sleep, about Maya's faith and Derek's loyalty and Sarah's promise. "Document everything," I finally said. "Every interaction, every restriction, every conversation. Because in court, documentation beats emotion every time. And find people who'll stand with you, family, friends, lawyers, who believe in what you're fighting for. You can't do it alone." Do you regret the fight? I regret that it was necessary. I regret that someone in a position of authority chose control over fairness, but I don't regret fighting back, because the alternative was giving up everything my family built. The interview aired that evening. By the next morning, I had 37 voicemails from people around the state, farmers, small business owners, homeowners, all dealing with similar HOA overreach, all asking for advice, all looking for hope that fighting back was possible. I couldn't help them all, but I connected them with Grace, who was building a network of attorneys specializing in HOA disputes, and I shared my documentation process, my timeline, the mistakes I'd made, and lessons I'd learned. Because if Victoria Chen taught me anything, it was that bullies with clipboards only win when good people don't know how to fight back. The full story of Victoria's schemes broke 2 weeks later. The county attorney's investigation uncovered more than anyone expected. Victoria hadn't just created one shell company, she'd created 3, all billing the HOA for services at inflated rates. Over 2 years, she'd siphoned nearly $67,000 in what investigators called systematic self-dealing. The Riverside Springs HOA board, realizing they'd been used as cover for Victoria's fraud, voted unanimously to remove her as president and cooperate fully with prosecutors. Former allies began sharing their own stories. One board member revealed that Victoria had threatened to manufacture violations if he voted against her proposals. A resident provided emails showing Victoria had blacklisted certain homeowners from community events after they questioned her authority. The Facebook group that had spread lies about me became a confessional space for people Victoria had hurt. Dozens of stories, small cruelties, arbitrary fines, reputations damaged, lives disrupted. I read some of the posts, not because I enjoyed seeing her fall, but because I needed to understand who I'd been fighting. And what I found wasn't a cartoon villain. It was a woman who'd started with good intentions, wanting organized, safe communities, and had gradually convinced herself that any means justified her ends. Power hadn't corrupted Victoria. It had revealed what was already there, the belief that she knew better than everyone else, and that disagreement was the same as disobedience. The trial was set for March 2025. Charges included fraud, extortion, and criminal misuse of position. Victoria pleaded guilty to avoid jail time, accepting 3 years probation, full restitution, and permanent ban from HOA leadership in the state. On the day the plea was announced, Grace called me. "It's done," she said. "Victoria's finished. The HOA is reforming its bylaws, and your legal bills are covered by the damages award. How much did we actually win?" "Enough. Court costs. Your lost income during the gate period. Punitive damages for the harassment. After my fees, you're clearing about $40,000. I sat down slowly. $40,000. Enough to upgrade equipment. Enough to put away for Maya's future. Enough to prove that fighting the right way, the legal way, could actually work. Grace, I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by keeping that farm running. And if anyone else needs help fighting an HOA, send them my way. You going to specialize in this now?" She laughed. "Thomas, I've gotten 17 inquiries in the past month from people dealing with HOA abuse. There's a market for attorneys who'll fight these battles. And after seeing what Victoria Chen did and what you did in response, I think I found my late career calling." That evening, I walked down to the road I'd built, the road that had cost so much more than money. The gravel gleamed in sunset light, every stone a testament to stubborn refusal to quit. I walked the full half-mile, from my back pasture to the county highway, feeling the surface under my boots, solid, real, permanent. At the highway junction, where my road met the public road, the county had installed a small green sign, Harrison Access Road, Private Farm Road, County Easement, simple, official, true. I stood there for a long time, watching trucks pass on the highway, feeling wind move across the fields, listening to the quiet sounds of evening settling over land that was mine. Not because Victoria Chen gave me permission, not because an HOA approved it, but because I'd done the work, documented the rights, and refused to let someone else's interpretation of power become my reality. This was freedom. Not the dramatic kind, not the loud kind. Just the simple, hard-earned right to work your own land on your own terms. I pulled out my phone and took one last photo. The road stretching away into golden light, the fields on either side, the farm buildings visible in the distance. Then I texted it to Maya with a message. Your mom was right. Some things are worth fighting for. Her response came immediately. She usually was. Love you, Dad. I walked back home as stars began appearing in the darkening sky, and for the first time in 6 months, I felt something that had been absent for so long I'd almost forgotten what it felt like. Peace. Not the absence of conflict, the presence of resolution. The knowledge that when something mattered enough, when the cause was just enough, when you were willing to do the work and pay the cost, you could win. Not always, not easily, but sometimes. And sometimes is enough. Thomas, we have a problem. My stomach dropped. What now? Victoria Chen has filed a countersuit, claiming you damaged HOA property, caused emotional distress, and defamed her character. She's asking for $500,000 in damages. I sat down slowly. She lost. The judge ruled against her. How can she? She can file whatever she wants. Whether it holds up is another question. But Thomas. Grace's voice was serious. This is a scorched earth move. She's trying to bury you in legal costs, even if she can't win. Can she do that? Technically, yes. Will she win? No. But defending against it will cost money you probably don't have. I thought about the farm, about 5 years of work, about Sarah's promise, about Maya's faith in me. How much to fight it? $50,000. Maybe more. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. I don't have that, I said quietly. I know, which is why I've been making calls. There's a legal defense fund for farmers facing HOA harassment. I've submitted your case. And Thomas, every news outlet in the state wants to interview you. This story: farmer builds legal road, HOA president retaliates, then sues when she loses. It's gone viral. I don't want to be famous. You don't have a choice. Because the only way to beat Victoria now is to make this so public, so documented, so undeniably corrupt that she can't hide behind lawyers and procedure. That night, I sat on the porch, thinking about everything. The road, the fight, the cost. Maya came out and sat beside me. Grace called me too, she said. Told me about the countersuit. I nodded. I've been thinking, Maya continued, about Mom, about what she'd say right now. What's that? That you already won. You built the road. You proved you could fight back. Walking away now doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart. Your mother never walked away from anything. No, but she always knew when to stop fighting the battle and start winning the war. I looked at my daughter. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe this isn't about the farm anymore. Maybe it's about making sure Victoria Chen can't do this to anyone else. And if that means interviews and publicity and turning this into something bigger than us, she shrugged, then that's what we do. The next morning, I called Grace back. Set up the interviews, all of them. If Victoria wants a public fight, let's give her one. The story exploded. Local news became state news, became national news. Farmer versus HOA, the battle for America's backbone. Every outlet wanted the same angle. Hard-working family man versus power-hungry bureaucrat. Victoria's countersuit fell apart within a week. Her own HOA board, realizing the PR nightmare she'd created, voted to remove her as president and distance themselves from her actions. Then a Riverside Springs resident, someone who'd been uncomfortable with Victoria's tactics, came forward with evidence. Email threads showing Victoria had used HOA funds to create a shell company for installing gates and collecting fees. Bank records showing she'd pocketed nearly $30,000 over 2 years. The county attorney filed charges: fraud, extortion, misappropriation of funds. Victoria's perfect facade crumbled in spectacular fashion. The same Facebook group that had spread lies about me was now filled with former allies sharing their own stories of manipulation and abuse. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd targeted. Just the first one who fought back hard enough to expose her. The trial happened 6 months later. I didn't attend, didn't need to. Victoria pleaded guilty to avoid jail time. 3 years probation, restitution, permanent ban from serving on any HOA board in the state. It should have felt like victory. In some ways, it did. but mostly it just felt exhausting. Maya graduates from her engineering program next spring. She's already started a consulting practice specializing in rural land use issues, fighting for farmers, dealing with HOA creep. Derek still comes over most weekends. We sit on the porch, drink beer, watch the sun set over fields that are mine. The road, officially Harrison Access Road, now has held up perfectly. I maintain it myself. No fees. No permits. No one to ask permission from. Sometimes I drive it just because I can. Windows down, radio off, just gravel under tires and the knowledge that every stone was laid by someone who refused to quit. I don't think about Victoria anymore. Don't need to. She's gone. The gate's gone. The fight's over. But I do think about Sarah, about the promise I made, about whether I kept it the way she meant. One evening, Maya and I are sitting on the porch, watching sunset paint the fields gold. "Dad?" she says quietly. "Can I tell you something?" "Always. When you almost cut that gate down, when you were ready to throw everything away?" She pauses. "I wasn't scared of Victoria. I was scared you'd forgotten who you are." I look at her, and who am I? Someone who wins by being better. Not meaner, not angrier. Better. My throat tightens. "Your mother said something similar once." "I know. She told me. The night before she died." Maya's voice cracks slightly. She said, "When your dad forgets he's fighting for something instead of against someone, remind him." I pull my daughter close. We sit in silence as the sun drops behind the tree line. The road stretches out in front of us. Gravel and dirt and work and proof that sometimes the most important victories aren't about winning. They're about refusing to become the thing you're fighting against. Later that night, I walk down to the barn alone. In the back corner, tucked behind old tools and dusty equipment, is a small wooden box. Inside, Sarah's letters. Things she wrote in those final weeks when talking became too hard. I open the last one, haven't read it in 5 years. Can barely see through tears, but the words are there. "Thomas, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, and you'll be angry at the cancer, at God, at the unfairness of it all. But don't let that anger poison you. Don't let it make you small. Fight for the farm. Fight for Maya. Fight for the life we built together. But fight like someone who remembers what he's protecting, not like someone who's forgotten why it matters. The land isn't just dirt. It's proof that good work, honest work, builds something that lasts. Don't just pass it on to Maya. Pass on the knowledge that fighting with honor is worth more than winning without it. I love you. Always. S. I fold the letter carefully. Put it back in the box. Walk outside. The road stretches into darkness, gravel catching moonlight like scattered stars. I stand there for a long time, listening to nothing but wind through wheat and the distant sound of highway traffic. Sarah was right. She's always right. This wasn't about the gate, or the road, or even Victoria. It was about proving that when you build something with your own hands, when you honor promises made to people who can't fight anymore, when you refuse to let bitterness make you cruel, you don't just win, you become the kind of person who deserves to. I walk back to the house. Maya's bedroom light is still on. Derek's truck is parked out front. He's staying for dinner tomorrow. Inside, the kitchen table is covered with Maya's new business plans, fighting for other farmers, protecting other families. She's building her own road now, and I can't wait to see where it leads. The land stretches out behind me. 3 generations of Harrisons, soon to be 4. Not because we're stubborn, because we remember what matters. And that's a legacy worth fighting for.